We're live.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
It's 1 week until then.
Oh, whoops. And somebody's Siri is on. That's right.
Sorry, that
she's
was me.
She's always listening. How are you?
At least it's not Alexa or something with some weird parrot ordering stuff.
Alexa, yes. Alexa, order us.
I don't think I'm ever going to be able to have that kind of thing in my house.
No!
Because I talk out loud to myself all the time.
All the time. And
say things like, "You stupid, what did you think?" Oh, gosh, I got to remember to get garbage bags.
All of a sudden, Alexa will send you 5 million garbage bags.
That's all I need.
Oh, my gosh. Well, it's Wednesday. It must be Facebook Live Day. Here we are at beachshop.com.
Good morning.
Good morning. I don't have my skinny microphone. There we go. My pencil. There we go. Good morning, Emil. What do I have? Am I okay?
All
right, fix me.
Okay.
There we go.
You're good.
All right. Well, it's great to have everybody here.
Nice to be here too.
Before we go any further, we have some business. We've got some business.
Okay.
A couple of things, just to let you guys know. On beadshop.com, you can find all of the projects and product stuff, all of that. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But even more important than that, we've had 2 birthdays here.
That's right.
This week. Monday was Ivan's birthday.
Happy birthday, Ivan!
Yay! Yay! There he is. Ivan's over there
working,
shipping your packages as we speak.
Talking you down on the phone.
That's right. Talking on the phone.
Talking people off the lead. The
that's
bead ledge.
Right. The bead ledge. He does it all. So he's doing that. And then we also, some of you guys know that we couldn't do these broadcasts without someone who's very near and dear to our hearts.
But far away.
Someone we've never met, but we know very well.
And I hope we do get to meet her someday.
Yeah, someday.
We've kind of talked about going to
someday.
the Czech Republic or something.
Something with Gita.
Something's going to have to happen.
So it's our Gita, our bead shop representative, our honorary bead shopian, I guess we could say.
Member of the crew.
Yes, in Denmark. And tomorrow is Gita's birthday. So Gita, who jumps on as beadshop.com and does all of this linking and helps us moderate. We could not do this broadcast on Wednesday or Friday without you. So big, heartfelt, happy birthday, many happy returns of the day to our Gita.
Happy birthday, Gita.
Yes.
Thank you for all your help.
A big shout out. And there's a big shout out from everybody here at the office, right? Happy birthday, Gita. Woohoo! Yes, there she is. There we all are. They cannot stop
filling
orders to even come on. So that's what we've got. So thank you. Of course, we've got Janice doing some moderating, and it looks like Drea also jumped on for a short period of time.
Cool.
So that's great.
Everybody
it's good to have everybody. Brandon's behind the camera. Emily and I are in front of the camera, and here we are. So just as a reminder, as I said, here on Wednesday's Facebook Live, a lot of you are new that are finding us for the first time and watching our broadcasts, which is great. And we welcome you with open beading arms.
Get your beads out.
That's right. Get your beads out. Get busy. But you can also watch these broadcasts later. We have them archived in a few places. We've got them right here on our business page for beadshop.com, right here on Facebook Live. You can also find them on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, you guys, it's a great way to get notified when our Free Tip Fridays go up, when our Facebook Lives go up. Also on next week, when Janice and I are at Beat and Button, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, we're going to be broadcasting live there. So you'll get the notifications about when those are posted as well. So there's so much on the YouTube channel that you might want to subscribe to.
You guys are so lucky. I'm jealous.
It's going to be fun. We're going to miss you.
I know.
We're going to miss you.
I know.
It's no fun without
Next year.
Next year. We also have something else you might want to subscribe to, which is our newsletter. So if you hop on over to beadshop.com, where our Facebook Lives are also archived, right there in the Facebook Live section of our website, you can go to the front page of our website, notify yourself, or subscribe to our newsletter. And our newsletter, everything stays private. We know that there's been some new kind of rules about collecting emails and stuff like that. So we're all in compliance with all of that.
We already do
GDPR D something. I have it here in my thing. We've got a whole new, but all of that new, the new privacy rules. So be concerned, don't be concerned that all of your info stays private and everything with us for your email. So it's a great lifeline to us. It's a great way to hear about what's going on, about deals, discounts, giveaways, all that kind of stuff. So that is your number one lifeline. We also have for you our episode notes that are posted the Monday after the Wednesday broadcast. So episode notes were just posted on Monday for our broadcast last week for embellished wire disc.
Another masterful job, Drea.
By
Thank
Drea.
you so much.
Yep, Drea does a great job.
Really, it's the companion. It's I know you like to call it the Cliff Notes.
I do. I like to call it the Cliff Notes.
We could call it the non-digital, but it's digital. But then you could print it out, and then it would be non-digital.
It's right. That's true.
I often, if I'm learning to knit, and if I see a pattern I like, I save it digitally, but I also print out a copy because it's nice to kind of take it with me. And I don't always have access to the internet. Sometimes there's no internet. We went this past week. We went someplace where there was no internet all day, and it was like,
wow, how strange.
How weird.
That's why you didn't text me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just kidding.
We went on. What day did we go? Sunday.
Oh.
All day, pretty much. No
internet. Wow, what a break.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
I took some pictures with my phone, but I didn't.
But you couldn't check everything.
There was nothing
That's
to
awesome.
check. It was
That's
kind of
awesome.
good. I didn't.
So awesome.
I did some writing in my notebook and some drawings and. Pick some
that
flowers, and it was lovely.
That sounds restful.
Yeah.
Well, you know what you can also do if you do have an iPhone or an iPad, you can download the handouts and save them in your iBooks as PDFs. You can save them as PDFs anyway on whatever computer, whatever device you have. But if you have a Mac and iOS device, you can save them right into your iBooks. I do that a lot with things that are PDFs, and then I can read them all on the plane.
Yeah.
And speaking of the plane, next week at this time,
you'll be in the air.
I'll be in Chicago, I think, by now, hopefully. My flight, I don't know who made my flight reservations, but somebody is flying out at 5:30 a.m.
That means you get there before there's any coffee available.
That's right, before, it's gonna be. And
Starbucks doesn't open until 7.
Right, so I don't know. I'm gonna be popping in, and I'm gonna be grumpy pants. But so next Wednesday, I will be winging my way to Bead and Button. It's gonna be great. It's the premier bead show of the year in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So Emily will be holding down the fort. She's doing a Facebook Live next week, which is also going to be a fun one.
Yep.
Another for the guys.
It is sort of focused that way, but really, all these things that we do could kind of, I guess I don't want to gender them too much.
Yeah.
They could really go for anybody.
Across
all the boards.
No, it's really true.
But it is sometimes fun to think about how we would make things for people who don't wear very much jewelry.
Yeah.
Which tends to be guys. I mean, some guys wear a lot of jewelry. But
and we're going to talk about that when we talk about this project and kind of its kind of fun counter project. Janice did mention that, yes, I indeed did make the plane reservations. And you know how it is, you guys. You're like, oh, I'm going to be fine. I'm just going to get my plane reservation, and it's just 5:30. I'll be awake, which I will be, but I'll
From the night before.
From the night before. Why go to bed? Why go to bed? Thank goodness I only live about 10 minutes away from the airport.
Well,
thank goodness.
Getting from here to Milwaukee is always kind of a challenge because there's about one.
There's one direct flight.
One direct select.
Yeah.
And it's fun because you get to the airport and they're all the beater people that you know.
Right. So it is true. So Wednesday is a big day for the beaters to fly.
Yeah.
And so I will probably run into.
Yeah.
Once when I was at Beat, I was going to Beat and Button, and this is back when you could you didn't have to ship all your stuff. You could check 5 bazillion boxes, and I would check my torches, and I would check, right, and I had this big thing. So I'm watching the like a hawk, the luggage when it comes, right? Because it comes out, and you're going, that's not mine. Oh God, that's not mine. You're like, please, the one with the handouts, please, just let that one be. The one with the kits, I now carry my kits on, but one with the kits, please come out. So I see, and I start to see boxes come by of vendors, of lampwork bead vendors that I know. And back, from back in the day, I'm like, oh, there's so-and-so. Oh, I bet that box is full of really wonderful lampwork beads. I'm just going to let that one go by. I'm not going to open it up. I'm not going to take anything out. But it's really funny. You see
when I was
everybody's
traveling
stuff.
with my kiln for teaching metal clay classes, I would actually watch them load it on the plane from the window. Like,
yeah, right?
is it going on? Is it where's
Yes.
mine? Oh,
Yes.
okay, there it goes.
There
I
it
wouldn't go sit down and be relaxed until I had seen my pieces get into the plane.
Well, that's why I
It's
always
a little dicey.
sit. I like to sit over the right wing, the right hand wing,
So you can look.
I can see
Yeah.
my stuff being loaded because I'm a little crazy that way. And knock wood, I've never had an issue. You know what?
No, I
you
haven't
just
either.
ship it. You let it. You give it up to the bead gods, and you trust that.
I mean,
it all
and there's only
happens.
so much you can do. You can ship a
Yeah.
little early, but even then, it doesn't mean you can replace something that you
No.
need. But I've had stuff shipped to me from, overnight, triple overnight,
Yeah.
priority express, extra guys,
Yeah.
whatever they call it,
Yeah.
to get there.
I do track obsessively track
Like
for
every
sure.
20 minutes
Yeah,
where it's
I'm
at.
all has it moved. But my tools and my stuff, they've traveled across country as much as I have
Yeah.
for the last 20 years. So my torches have seen like Duluth many times, I guess, at least from the inside of a FedEx ground truck. Anyway.
They've seen the world.
They've
huh?
driven over the Rockies. They're all, okay, here we go. We're going out. So that's our story. We're sticking to it. So next week, starting on Wednesday, Emily will be Facebook Living solo. I'll be popping in periodically from
The cat's
Beat and
away.
Button. Yes, that's right. When the cat's away, this mouse is the other cat actually is gonna be doing her thing. Then starting that Wednesday, we're going to be popping in and out. The show is going to be setting up on Wednesday at Beat and Button, so I might be popping in a little bit with my phone. Janice meets me on Thursday, so we're going to be doing some Facebook Living on Thursday, and Thursday is the big competition.
I know.
It's
That's the thing that's making me crazy.
Well,
that
I
I'm gonna
need you
miss.
there.
I really want to be there too.
The Project Embellish challenge. It's Project Embellish. It's up on the Beat and Button site. It starts on Thursday afternoon at 4 p.m. It coincides with the big kind of pre-show. And
You have room
it's
you have room in your room for me?
Totally. I'll just put you in my. Just cut. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Fly out. I'm not kidding. You never know what's going to happen.
You never know what's going to happen.
And so, what happens with Project Embellish? It's going to be me and 5 others. So it's six total.
Altogether.
Bead instructors. Yep. That are gonna. It's going to be kind of like Chopped, but for beads.
Or Project Runway.
Or Project
Right.
Runway, or
They're gonna
any of
give
those
you some
competition
things.
shows. Yep. So we get a box. We get stuff in it, and we have 3 hours. I always do this 3. I have a lazy 3. There we go. 3 hours.
3 hours.
To maker time.
Yeah.
To make
No,
something.
I think I've talked about that kind of concept since Project Runway started.
Yeah, we've
Because
always wanted to do it.
But it's harder with jewelers and designers because it would take a little longer amount of
Yeah.
time, and it's so tiny and fiddly that
Yeah.
people would be asleep if
Well-
there's not enough Stephen
There's
James
not
in
enough-
our,
right.
there's not enough Stephen James in the world to
That's
make
right.
this
Well,
work.
you never know because he's going to be around. You never know if he'll pop in. So Janice is going to be filming it.
I thought he was
No,
one of
he's
the
actually
things-
not.
Oh,
he's
he's
not. But he
Okay.
is there at Beat and Button, so
Yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
to see if I can convince him. But Janice is
yeah.
going to be filming, so we'll be streaming that live. All of my tools and everything have gone, so it's going to be really great. It's going to be a lot of fun. I have no idea what I'm going to be making. Hopefully it involves fire. Maybe it'll involve some wire, some beads. Who knows? Who knows? So it's going to be really fun. So that's going to happen on Thursday, and we'll send out, that'll be in our emails all next week. So I think we've given everything. We've updated everybody. Janice and I also have classes on Friday and Saturday. So there is still room in the classes. Tammy, our dear friend Tammy Drennan is here today. She's putting the kits together for those classes. So we have plenty of kits available. So if you do want to take the color study class, which I happen to be wearing right here. That's on Saturday. You can come and sign up and take a class with Janice and I in Milwaukee. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. If you are watching this on the replay, or if you do watch our replays, we start the instruction at about 15 minutes in, so you can just take that slider, slide it up to 15 minutes, and the instruction will start.
You can pass all the chit chat
Yeah,
if
the
you
chit-chat.
don't want to be involved in the chit chat.
Yes.
But most people like the chit chat.
Yeah, but we understand if you want to get right to the meat.
So Janice says that she's a little surprised she's going to be filming.
No, we talked about this. Okay, well, no, Janice, we talked about that you're going to be the streaming. Well, maybe I just had told you in my head, but we're going to be working
Janice?
it out. You're going to be filming.
You'll be fine.
It'll be fine. We're gonna have a great time. So so that's our story. We're sticking to it. So let's talk a little bit about this project, shall we?
Sure.
We've been planning kind of our summer projects for Facebook Live, and this was a project that you, Emily, kind of had been simmering for a while.
You know, I've been simmering on peyote beads a bit more for the last 6 or 7 months. And I've been dying to use these beads, actually, because they're so cool.
The hematites?
The hematites. So they're shaped like the shadow. It's a cube where they knock off the corners. But these are actually made out of hematites, out of stone. And they're lovely colors, lovely shades.
Yeah.
They are a metallic type finish, and they're slightly matted.
Slightly matted.
So they do sometimes change a little bit of color when you handle them with your skin oils, but they darken, and just the patina on it is beautiful.
They look great. They look great.
I love that they have some little variations across the color. So if you look at a bunch of strands, you'll see 1 or 2 pop up that are kind of a different little color. But harkening back to your piece that we made with the stretch brace, the stretch
right, which
elastic.
is this what I have here. And we did this, I think it was in December. It was the peyote stretch bracelet, I think.
And I thought that those kind of went together kind of well. One of the things that was interesting about this one was we didn't know what to string this on. And so beaded beads, you sometimes have construction constraints about how big or how small that's going to be, the hole. And then you have to figure out how to string it on something.
Right.
So to build up, we used the waxed linen, which
I love
it too. It's a really beautiful fiber, and it's lovely to work with. It holds its shape kind of nicely, and has some body to it. And we use it in a large quantity.
So we use it in so many different projects. But I think when you were choosing the fiber to put this on, the wax linen kind of has, I don't want to say a little bit of a Southwest feel, but it has a little bit of a natural feel, I guess, to it or something. Yep. So I think it was a really cool, a cool fiber to put this on.
And this is the 4, so the
4
biggest
ply.
one, the 4 ply. And we used not quite a whole nest.
Strand. A nest of it, right.
But close. So 1 strand of hematite cubes, 1 nest of linen, a clasp,
and then the clasp and some glue. So it's super easy and approachable. Now the beaded stacks, I think they make kind of a cool his and hers kind of a
absolutely
kind of a project like this. You know, you can stack them, or hers and hers.
Right.
Really, you know, you can make them. And these beads themselves would also look great just on, you know, just strung or whatever. So,
you know, we were also really concerned about sizing on these, and we did have Ivan hanging around, so we used Ivan because we needed his wrist.
We needed a guy wrist.
And we double checked with him a couple of times.
And so these are all
these actually
sized to fit eyes.
like a bangle, a bit on the looser side. And I think one of the things that I might hear from more guy jewelry wearers is they didn't really want anything that was too tight, too form-fitting, too clingy. It wanted to be something that was kind of on the bangle side.
Yeah.
Having the magnetic bracelet just is kind of a natural.
Super easy.
Yeah, it makes
and I know
perfect sense.
Mike Chris, your Ed would wear this probably.
Oh, absolutely.
And Mike Chris would wear this too.
Yeah,
They would both wear these, I think. And Ivan would probably wear them. You'd wear this, right, Ives? Yep.
Cool.
Ivan says thumbs up while he's weighing a huge box as he's weighing. Well, let's move the camera over so we can actually take a look at these materials up close and personally. And someone was saying that Debbie, you were saying that you were thinking about maybe braiding.
Yeah, that might be nice.
Which would look great. We also do have, do you want to hand me the camera, Brian? We also do have the braided leather the braided leather cord, that might look kind of cool
Yeah,
with these as well.
It might
right?
do.
So all of those, we chose the linen, but you guys choose what what works for you, right? So we've had some requests to see these a little bit most closest, up close and personal. And Ivan, you're asking to model one. Maybe we'll have Ivan come and put one on his wrist a little bit later. He just gave me the sideways smile, so maybe we can get him. Maybe we can get him. Okay. Oh, thanks, Fran.
Yeah.
So let's move these, and let me kind of open them up a little bit so they're flat, so you can see them a little bit better. And you can see how the wax linen just is kind of loosey-goosey a little bit there. Let me make sure that.
I liked the idea that this kind of had some body on its own, and that they were more bangle-like than strap-like. And one of the things that I did look at some of the other leathers and considered maybe doing it on strands of 0.5 millimeter leather, is that that's very stiff.
Yeah,
in comparison. And this does loosen as you wear it. As the wax kind of wears a little bit, it'll kind of change. But I also made kind of a different take on this bead because I wanted to have a really stable, firm bead. Yeah, so the actual, if you guys who have done the peyote beads, this is the regular peyote stitch. We have Emily has a little bit of a nuance, a little bit of a change up on this bead that she's going to. I did something that most people don't usually do with peyote. But so I did it with a couple of purposes. You notice it has this flat edge here. And this does not. Yeah. Yeah, right. So we're going to talk about how that's changed up. So you could, again, mix the leathers, mix the cords. You could use surfer cord. You could use any of the cords. Yeah, really. Absolutely. Because these sliders, I want to make a bunch of these sliders and mix them with some wire work. I think would look really, absolutely, really kind of cool. Faye, I think the wax linen would be fine in the heat. It's pretty resistant to everything. I wouldn't think it would be too sticky. Again, it's kind of bangly because they're stiff enough to stay out in a circle. So the hematite cubes that we picked happen to be all matte this time. But we do have some different colors. There are some real shiny ones, and this edge is just losing it. Oh, sorry. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Got it. Excellent. So again, you could use any colors, and we just matched it with the wax linen that we liked working with. And we have this bountiful clasp. We have it in the copper, the antique brass, and then the antique silver as well. Okay, so pretty easy materials list that you can use. Pretty simple. And then you used for the thread. Let's talk about your thread choices. I've noticed there's been some chitty chat. There's been some chitty chat on the Facebook about threads, and I have a couple of thoughts about threads. And Kate's gonna say, "You're gonna take your glasses off." Yeah, you're gonna take your glasses off right now. Perfect. So, Fireline is an extremely durable but extremely thin thread that we can work with. I like it anytime I think that I'm going to have abrasion issues, so metal beads, crystal beads, might have rough edges, like something from the antique and vintage finds. These hematite cubes, if I was going to do this with shadows, it's a perfect thread for this. It is on the thin side, and today we're actually going to use it doubled, which will give us a little bit more body, a little more stiffness. Because the hole in the hematite cube is a little big. Yeah, it's generous. One thing that happens when you use thinner threads in beads that have really big holes is that the thread doesn't really fill up the hole much, so the bead wobbles around on that thread. And for peyote stitching, when you're learning how to do it, it's actually really it's extra difficult. You're adding a level of problem by using too thin a thread and too big a bead. So the thread that I would always choose for whatever project I was doing would be the one that's the toughest, that I can mostly use single, that I can go through my bead multiple passes with, that color matches, all those things. And the durability thing came first. I don't ever want to have a piece break or have to go back and fix it. Now, last time we were doing fringe bracelets 2 weeks ago, and I showed off my boas. Those boas have had multiple repairs.
Yeah. And what was the thread you used on this?
I used silicide,
Oh,
which is
silicide
a
from
different
way back
day, way back kind of a thread. And I was using tons of crystals. And I'll be walking along with that necklace on, and I'll feel something trickle down my cleavage. And oh boy, one of the fringes just fell off. So I don't want to have things break.
Right.
And the Fireline for me is just, it's really that durable factor with the thin factor that I can really always depend upon. Some seed beaters that I know have changed over to using Fireline for everything. I don't know that I have to use it for everything.
I love it. I've been using it so much since you introduced it here. I haven't really, I'd never used it really. And now I find that's my go-to almost for every seed beater.
I mean, I like KO, I like Silamide, I like Nymo.
No, I do. I
have those.
Yeah.
I find with the bead embroidery using those filament style threads, the Nymo, the Ceylons that come on the little bobbins, those tend to, I find, work a little bit better for bead embroidery. But that's really a case specific thing. I don't have to worry about durability. It's not going to come off. So.
No, I think it's, I love it, love it, love it.
Yeah.
So let's jump in, and you're going to start, because we know that peyote stitch sometimes makes some of you want to weep.
Don't cry over peyote stitch.
Don't cry over peyote.
Please.
There are much bigger things to cry over.
Much bigger fish to fry.
Yes. And so Emily's going to go over the...
I'd love to go over it with a chart. Do you mind?
Yeah, no, you've got a chart ready for us.
Ready for you.
Yes. So with the help of the chart, and Emily has some larger beads that she's going to share with, I know that those of you who feel like you've been struggling with peyote stitch are going to be in good shape.
Okay.
So talk to me.
Talk to me, Goose.
Talk to me, Goose.
So Brandon, can you get this whole thing in?
Not the bottom.
Okay. Let me take it one layer at a time.
The top 2 rows.
Okay, perfect. So this is one of the advantages to moving the camera over here, and I really like this, is that we're working from
Your point of view.
our point of view, but also your point of view. So this would what your work would look like. I also am a right-handed person, so I really talk mostly about how I would do it right-handed. If you're a left-handed person, just flip-flop everything, and you'll be fine. Or many lefties I know, because gosh bless them, they'll learn how to do things right-handed because they can't find anybody to do it left-handed with them.
Left-handed, that's right.
Right? So we're going to start with a stopper bead, and that's pretty much how I start every seed bead adventure. Not everyone, but a lot of them. And just put my needle and thread through the stopper bead. I'm going to loop around and go through that stopper bead again. So a stopper bead's only job is to keep the other beads from falling off the thread. It's not part of the pattern in this case. It has no other job but that. It's just to keep these first beads from falling off the thread. Okay?
So that's yours right there.
That's that stopper bead.
That's it.
I usually use a different color, so it's easy to spot. I'm going to pick up my needle and going to go through 12 beads.
12 beads.
So however many beads you use in this case, it doesn't really matter. I'm doing 12 because it gave me a width that I liked. And we're going to do 12 beads times 12 rows. So they're actually kind of a nice even number there.
An even number.
Yeah.
And we'll put this chart, as always, in the episode notes, and I'll post it up on the bead table.
Yeah,
as well,
absolutely.
so you guys
Absolutely.
will have access to it.
Okay. Bringing my needle out, bead number 12, right, means that I'm going to start the next row. So, a little bit of a confusion with peyote stitch is this first row of beads that we're going to make is actually the first 2 rows. So 6 will be a low row and 6 will be a high row. So you're going to have low up beads and down beads, or low beads and high beads. Okay? So here's where I would be exiting this bead.
Pardon my reach. Sorry. There you go.
Okay. I would be exiting my bead number 12 and about to loop around, and I'd have to pick up a bead. And peyote stitch has a mantra that goes with it, and most bead stitches do, but peyote is particularly easy and catchy to remember. So you're going to pick up a bead, skip a bead, and go through the next bead. So my thread's coming out, and I'm going to add a bead here on my needle and go right into bead number 11. So this was 12, this is 11. Okay?
And on
And
here,
pop out.
that's 11 and that's 12,
Correct.
right?
And I'm popping out. So pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through the next bead. And as you do repeat this along, you end up with this sawtooth sort of edge that happens. Okay? So here's rows 1, 2, and 3. This is actually row 1 down here. This is a 1, 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 this is a 1. This is actually 2. And here's 3. Now there's 2 ways to count those rows. You can count them on the diagonal, if you like, from the lowest bead to the highest. 1, 2, 3, if that makes sense. Or another sort of sneaky way is to count the beads on the edges and add them together. So if there's 1 bead here and 2 beads here, I have 3 rows. Okay? So our thread passes through the beads twice. And this is a place where you can gain a little bit of comfort from knowing that even if using single thread and a thread that may not be as strong as you would like it to be, so maybe not fireline, each bead has 2 pieces of thread going through it. Now I've said this before, when I was a new beader, I had a lot of concerns about how sturdy my work was going to be.
Yeah, seed bead wise. Yeah, me too.
Very much. And I always felt that single thread was just scary thin. And so I would double my thread all the time. And double thread all of the time gave me extra strong, stiff beadwork. After a while, I got convinced by seeing so many other people do it that maybe I should try single beadwork, single thread. And I did. And it was so much better. My beads were much more flexible.
Yeah.
Everything had some drape to it. It was so much easier if I split I couldn't make a big mistake. If I split my thread was double. Ugh.
Right, such
It was
a pain.
the sad, sad day.
Sad state of affairs.
Sad state of affairs. Okay? So peyote stitch is just this lather, rinse, repeat, which comes right off the bottle of the shampoo in the shower. You'll
That's
notice.
right.
I can't read it anymore because I don't have my glasses on in the shower. But
Right.
lather, rinse, repeat is how each peyote stitch row goes. It's the same every time.
And this works for any size bead, right, Em? I mean,
Absolutely.
we're working with these 2mm hematite cut beads today, but for any bead,
Any bead.
doesn't matter the
Delicas,
size.
round beads.
Doesn't
you
matter.
could do peyote stitch with bugles, which would be a little awkward, but it might be kind of an interesting
Yeah,
effect.
but you could do it. Yeah.
Yep. So, and this is also called one drop peyote. So
Single
we're
drop,
only
right,
having
one drop.
one bead at a time. We don't really need to differentiate it at this point, so it's peyote stitch. If we do 2 beads in a group in each stitch, then it would be 2 drop,
drop.
or 3 drop. We did 2 and 3 drop brick stitch when we did the unbreakable heart, or the heart on my sleeve, and that was fun because it gave us some changes to the shape of what we were doing really easily.
So now you're going to translate that. You're going to use some of these 6/0 to do kind of this first row
Right,
to make it kind of big, and then we're going to transition.
right.
So
Okay.
let's take a look.
Watch this.
Watch this. Watch this, everybody.
Look, I've got some big beads. So these are a size 6 bead, 6/0. And one of the things you might find with bigger beads is that they sometimes have a little more irregularity. I have a habit of every time I put a bead on my needle, I
Yeah,
take a
check it.
quick look
Yeah.
at that bead.
Appraise it. A quick appraisal.
Quick appraisal. And if it looks a little awkward, a little bit big or small, then
The shape is
I
funny.
might put it
Ditch
aside
it.
for another adventure.
Yeah.
Okay? So I've got, I'm going to have one stopper bead, and this is going to be a size 8 because it's going to make my life a little easier. And Kate, you went ahead and peyoted with no stopper bead. Good girl.
I did because I like living on the edge.
She's so good.
Well,
So I'm going to put my bead on my
I'm a rebel.
needle,
Rebel.
And I take a look at it. Looks good, looks even and consistent. I'm going to slide that bead down my thread, and I usually get within about 6 or 8 inches of the end of that thread. I'm going to weave this thread back into my work, so I want to make sure that it's long enough to put a needle on comfortably and work with it more.
So that's your stopper bead.
That's my stopper bead, and my needle is then going to pass through the stopper bead again in the same direction.
And you're using your thread here singly. Is
I
that
am.
right, Em?
I am. Most of the time I use single thread. Okay? So that thread is on the outside of the bead, and that bead can move up and down. It could fall off if I pushed it far enough, but it's going to hold my other beads in place so nicely that I don't really have to keep any eye on the end of the thread or worry that my beads are going to fall off. So we are doing even count peyote stitch in this case. We're starting with 12 beads, which is the first 2 rows. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and a couple more would be grand. Okay.
Nice.
So there's your dozen beads. Okay. And to start that next row, row number 3.
Yeah, the cool thing is you put on those first, you're already, when you're peyote stitching,
You're
you're
kind of
already
ahead.
at the 3rd row.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So I
awesome.
have a bead on my needle. I'm going to skip a bead. That's this last one here. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, and go through the next bead. Now, it's kind of not unusual to have a little space here, and I can slide my stopper bead up to help hold everything in place.
Yeah, the first few rows always.
Oh, it always looks like a wet cat.
Yeah.
Right? Pick up a bead, skip a bead, pass through the next bead. Now, if I'm using doubled thread, there's some tricks for this. And one of these tricks is the same one that we use when we're looming, is that we're going to always aim to have our needle pass through the top part of the tunnel. So if this bead is a tunnel, has a hole through it, and I have a thread down below at the bottom, I want to pass through the upper part, going upwards, feeling my needle scrape along the inside of that tunnel. And that'll help keep you away from that other thread that you had down at the bottom. Oh, and I made a mistake.
Oh,
See? Look, I didn't skip a bead.
see what happens?
So when I'm going to undo, I either would unthread my needle, or I would take my needle and go back eye first. And this usually works pretty well. Ah, perfect. Got my thread out without a problem. Okay?
Yeah, that's the problem that I do mostly is I forget to skip a bead when I'm
Oh,
peyote
no
stitching.
kidding.
Just because
You're just trucking
I
along
just truck
and-
along, or I really like to do freeform peyote too. So sometimes that's a trick to,
Decrease or increase, yeah.
or increase. So, what
Pick
are you
up a
gonna
bead,
do?
skip a bead, go through the next bead. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through the next bead.
Yeah. And notice how Emily is trying to stitch on one side of the peyote. Though at this point with row 3, it doesn't make much of a difference because then if you get yourself kind of whipped around or if things get twisted, this first 3 rows, it doesn't make much of a difference.
Yeah, so this
just
is
have to
actually
keep-
row number 1 and this is row number 3. They could actually switch spots. Other than the thread being twisted a bit, it really doesn't make that much difference. Okay. Again, with even count peyote, we're going to always have the same turn at the end of each row. Right? So again, here's my 3 rows. Row 1, row 2, and row 3. And then I can also check by using the edge count. 1 on that edge, 2 on this. Add those 2 numbers together and I get 3.
3 rows.
So one thing that you might wonder about and have some issues with is how much tension that you'd like to have. As a general rule of thumb, you want to pull your thread tight enough that you really don't see the thread between the beads. Now in this case I'm using a contrasting thread on purpose. If I was using a blue thread, we probably wouldn't be able to see it, or a light gray maybe even.
Right.
Wouldn't be able to see it. I use far more ivory, light gray, dark gray than I use any other colored thread. I have a lot of other colors, but those are my
I
more
do.
primaries.
I use gray. I pretty much use that gray.
I would give you a little quick warning. If you're not sure of a new stitch, don't use black threads and black beads to try to learn it. Pick some contrasting beads and contrasting thread so that you can see what you're doing, and do it on a day when you're fully caffeinated and well fed and
well lit
and happy and it's all good, you know. So as far as tension goes, as long as you don't see the thread, that's a good sign. The next good sign would be that things kind of hold themselves together pretty nicely.
Right, they're not loosey all over the place.
Now, when we're stitching with our fire line and our hematite cubes, I would recommend that you keep your tension on the loose side, because we're going to bend it around to make a circle.
Right.
And we're bending it not the way you might think.
Right.
Right?
And as I'm doing this,
You're getting a little snug there?
I'm getting a little snug because
you might be
know
okay.
me.
I know.
I like
You like a
my
little tight
tension is
tension.
tight.
Well, and because this is
Tight.
already a beads with squared off edges, and the way they fit together is a little, they kind of add a little tension from that
they
from
need,
that
they need
fitting.
a little room.
Yeah, they need a little bit of room. So slightly loose tension would be a good choice. Okay, so let me do one more row with these big beads, and then I'll move over to the hematite ones. So I'm going to pick up a bead. I'm going to skip a bead, and now it's easy to see which bead I'm going to skip because it's going to be the down bead. You can flip this over if you want, so you always go the same way. I actually tend to hold it a little bit more vertical, and I go down and up as I sort of stitch. That's just the way I tend to do it.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
Yeah.
I flip it.
You flip it?
So I'm a flipper.
I find that as long as I know where that stopper bead is in the lower left-hand corner of my work, I can always straighten myself out, left to right, front to back. I know exactly where I'm at. Okay, so I'm going to got a bead on my needle, going to skip a bead, pass through the next bead. And that happens to be an up bead, and that's what I really want.
And then those up beads just make that little
Sawtooth edge happen perfectly for...
You just drop that bead right
in there. Yep. You know, if you're kind of new to this, it might be a wise idea to finish the row before you stop for a break. It's not necessary, though. If you ever get lost or confused, just put that stopper bead in the lower left-hand corner or right-hand corner, and you'll be able to see where you're going. Okay? Do we have any other questions on there I need to be aware of?
No, we're doing good, I think. Doing great. So if you can kind of get past these first 3 rows, that will then you're almost home free.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So you've got that 3rd row.
I've got the 4th row actually on.
Okay.
And you'll notice that 4th row, things get to be very stable. Okay, no more loosey-goosiness. Now, part of the loosiness in this particular issue is that the bead hole is really large and my thread is pretty fine.
Yeah.
So I could go up in thread size. I might be able to go to a extra fine Ceylon. And use that instead for stitching these bigger beads.
Oh yeah, the fine or the micro.
The micro, so that I could have filling up those holes a little bit would actually give me a little bit more stability in my piece. Do we need to see one more row, guys, or are you good?
I don't know. Let's. That looks pretty good. You can stitch that. You can stitch that pretty quick.
Yeah.
One more row,
One
and
more
then
row.
we'll transfer over to the hematite cubes.
Right.
What say you, Em?
That sounds good to me.
And, you know, when I notice how Emily moves her needle, and I find myself doing that automatically as well. See how she's coming in at an angle, and the needle comes out kind of at a diagonal? She's not trying to put her needle in over the top of the row, but comes in at an angle and exits at an angle. I think that really helps you not get your needle bound up in your beadwork as well, right?
If you find yourself splitting your thread, I would focus much more on that hitting the top of the tunnel. As I go in, I'm literally scraping my needle across
the
that
top of the bead
top
hole.
of that hole.
Right. Great. Whoops, sorry, I just hit you with
Yeah.
my
Got to be careful who you sit next to.
That's right. I always cut way too much thread. So
You know,
I have a super
what's fun about
long piece
making
of thread.
peyote beads most of the time is that you don't ever have to change thread. It's
Yeah.
just one piece of thread.
one piece of thread.
Right.
That looks great.
So how many rows do I have?
You have 4 rows, Emily Miller.
Are you sure?
Let's count. You actually don't. You have 5 rows.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 rows.
5 rows.
Okay.
Looks great.
So we're going to make this strip about 12 rows long. But you can make it any length you like because this time we used our width as the diameter of our bead and not the height.
Not the height.
Right? So you can actually make these beads as long, as large or small as you might like. And it might be fun to have several different ones on a strand on your bracelet. Okay.
So let's go ahead and jump in to the cuts.
Sure.
The hematite cubes.
Yeah.
So it's going to be exactly the same way. Do you want me to stitch on that one so
Nah.
you can close it?
No,
or-
I'm going to use this
All
guy right
do
here.
that guy. Okay, got it.
I've got one to close.
You've got one.
Way ahead of you,
You got
Richburg.
it. So ahead of me.
So I'm going to scoop my beads up. This is what those triangles are for, really. You can use them for organizing too.
Yeah.
But they are the best little scoop in the world. And you can scoop up your beads right off your bead mat. I like these bead mats because they do allow your beads to be easy to pick up.
Yeah.
And they often have the beads sitting with the hole up so you can see it.
Yeah, I
and-
like the
and
little cushion.
Put your needle right through.
Looks good. So what color are you going to start this with?
I can start it with a
Yeah,
with a
let's
new
start it.
color.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then you'll.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you.
So.
That one's hanging out there.
Okay.
So I used a little leftovers of some of the beads that I had from our samples that I did, and I stitched first some rows with the silver, matte silver, and then I used the blue. I don't know what that color was. Matte silver, matte metallic blue. And my beadwork is flaring out. Can you see?
Because they're just slightly different
how
sizes.
different size they are? So this is sort of interesting. By looking at those beads, I would have said they were all the same size. I would have not. You could have knocked me over with a feather that they were different sizes.
Right.
So if you decide to mix your beads and mix your colors, like we did back here, remember that these beads may not all be the same size. So one thing you can do is mix your colors evenly in a row. So if you're going to have 3 blue, have 3 silver. You know, make it that mix be kind of even, and then it will all kind of counteract
come out in the
itself.
wash,
Yep,
right?
yep. Another one of my favorite sayings. Can I borrow some of these beads?
Yeah, you go for it.
Awesome.
So I think I might have 12 rows.
Oh, you're a
Okay.
fast girl.
So we're supposed to have 12 rows, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12. Yep, so I'm ready. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You're taking my peyote.
Yeah, I'm just looking
There
at
you
it.
go. Just look at it. How did I do?
Yeah, you did pretty good.
All right.
Actually, I guess it's more than 12 rows.
So that's my 12.
Yeah, that's good.
So how many? So
Well, I
it's
guess I
across.
miscounted. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. I'm gonna keep.
Okay, you wanna
you
keep going?
start that and I'll count.
Okay, sorry, I miscounted. I thought it was 12.
That's okay. We're gonna.
Can I have the package of needles over
That's
there,
the
please?
beauty of making this live.
I love it. And you opened your fire line?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I think it's 22 rows, Em.
Oh, okay. Maybe I was thinking it was 12 times 12.
Yep. So I'm gonna go
Okay.
22. I'm
Okay.
gonna go
Do a
to
few more?
22. Yep.
All right.
So I'm gonna steal these back.
All right. I'll just keep a few to go with.
Okay.
So with fire line, one of the easiest things to do is to wax it to help control it a little bit. It's a little bit wiry.
It is.
It's not got the flexibility and the drape that many of our other threads do. And to control it, I like a little beeswax. And I will liberally apply beeswax whenever I need to. So my technique for needling the thread is the same, no matter what thread I use. I pull the thread down till there's just a dot between my thumb and forefinger, and I put the eye of the needle down on the top of that dot. And I'll do a little sawing back and forth, and then I feel the needle pass through my fingers, and there's the thread on the needle. Okay?
Nicely done.
Sometimes fun to do it at a far away from your focal length. Exciting. For doubled thread, I'm going to bring the two ends together. And then I'm going to wax. So you'll notice that the wax has some black marks on it. That's actually from the thread. Fireline has a little bit of a lubricant on the outside to make it a little bit slippery for fishing. And if I get that little bit of lubricant on the beeswax, it's not a big deal. Right? So now my thread stiffer, but a little more together. See, it's 2 strands together, and it's very tighty. It's not going to get away from me. Right? I will make my bead be a one stopper bead. Come around, go back through. Again, leaving enough tail that I can thread that on my needle later to bury it.
And that stopper bead will be taken off later.
Yes, absolutely. He's not going to have any roll but to keep these first 12 beads from falling off. And it lets me align myself so I know where I am. Anytime I put my work down, I can pick it up again knowing right where I am. There we go. Let's count. 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12. Now some folks, when they are working on a pattern or trying to stitch in a particular way, they will actually lay their beads out for a row. We did this when we did the peyote or the textured fringe too. You can actually lay out 6 beads so that you know which beads you're going to pick up next, and have them just in a little row if you're working on a pattern or anything else. Sometimes that's a way to kind of school yourself on how to do this correctly. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my work, pick up 1 bead, skip a bead, that's the one at the end, pass through the next bead. So this is the same as I was doing before. Again, aimed for the roof of the bead, the roof of the tunnel, and pull this all up into itself. I always find that the first row is the struggliest one. That if you can get past that first row or 2 even, you will be just sailing right along with no problems. But it takes a minute to kind of get yourself organized and get everything handled so that you can see it, hold it, and work with it. Skip a bead, go through the next
let's
bead.
Get Emily, maybe is she in frame all the way?
Yeah,
Looks like
as
she's-
much as she can.
How am I doing? Better?
She has to move it. I mean,
Yeah, just
I've
let
got
me
it
know.
zoomed in right onto
Okay,
the.
great.
Okay. We doing good with visual? Everybody's happy?
Yeah, it looks good.
Good.
Yeah, there we go.
We always have that focal thing here, now that we're all wearing glasses. It's hard to stitch at arm's length.
It is.
All right. So the wax thread and the fact that my holes are smaller in these beads means that everything is kind of sticking together a little bit better. You notice from that last one? Now remember, this last bead here, it's a stopper bead, so it's not part of anything at all. It's just hanging out down there. And if it gets confusing for you, if you didn't happen to use a different color or anything, just slide it off. Everything's good now. No one's going anywhere. You're all golden. Right?
Looks great. And those are your first 3
That's
rows.
my first 3 rows. 1, 2, 3, or counting from lowest to highest, 1, 2, 3 on the diagonal.
Nice. Now you're ready to jump in and go to row 4.
Right.
Now I've been kind of zooming right along, but I also made a mistake.
What?
And I want to show people how we fix this.
What'd you do?
This is another thing that I do all the time when I'm making peyote, and I'll put it down there. Can you see how I missed a bead is missing
Inadvertent decrease.
in that row, inadvertent decrease. And I know that because I should have a little bead sticking up right here. I should have an up bead, but I don't have one. And I can also see, can you see, you can see my thread. There's no bead in that thread. All right?
Yeah.
So, so what I'm going to do, this is how I fix it. I'm going to come in, and I just need to add a bead in that space.
Go forward a little bit.
That one?
There you go.
There we go. So I'm going to bring my needle down, because here I would just be going along this row up here, but I've got that canyon. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to drop down a row, I'm going to put my needle through, and it's coming out where a bead should be. So I'm going to pick up that bead, just put it on, nestle it in where it should have gone in the first place, right? So I can see, oh, okay, it's sitting there. So now I need to bring my thread back here to kind of continue along this row that I was doing. So I'm just gonna forward. I'm just gonna kind of walk my needle back, kind of like as if I were binding off my thread or weaving my thread back through. Sorry, it's a little far from my eyeballs here. So I go through there, and I go through, I'm going to go through that one, always visualizing that I'm going to come out of this bead right there. So you can recover, you know, if
Yeah, peyote is
you
fairly
had this
forgiving.
misstep. Yeah, it's
And,
no big
you
deal.
know, we could have backed that out, too. It wasn't very many stitches.
It was those beads, and then I would have had to back out that row. I don't know. I'm always afeared sometimes of backing out my thread too far.
No, you would have been fine.
So I just go in and I fix it.
So, Cindy, I see you have a question about if you start with 12 beads, I always have 6 beads on each edge, which is 12. It does not change. So I think
There
what
we
you're
go.
counting
Now
is
I'm
the
ready.
wrong edges. If I'm understanding your dilemma correctly, and here's a little bit bigger piece, also. So, can I borrow an awl, Kate Richburg, or your
Sure.
pointer needle
Yeah, I've got
pen?
it right here.
Thank you.
Here, I'll give you the tweezers.
Tweezers, perfect. So when I'm counting the rows, you can count on the diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or we can count the edges 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that would be 14 rows if I count on the diagonal.
And you're not counting the edges that you're stitching on.
Correct.
It's not the stitch on edge.
Not at all.
It's the bias edge.
Right. So it's the edge on the diagonal this way, from lowest to highest, will give us that same count. Okay. So sometimes on peyote stitch patterns, you'll actually see a line going diagonally through the pattern, and that's what that's for, so that you can help you count which row you happen to be on. Does that make more sense, Cindy? I'm hoping.
And then let's see. I've got. So let's count how many rows.
It's possible
Emily.
we are Pat, we are confusing how many rows with how many beads.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 rows.
17. Okay.
Right? So if we were to count from lowest to highest across this diagonal, we'd go almost to the top like this. If we came off the edge and ran out of beads, we could just turn and continue on the diagonal up this way again, and that would help us give us that count. Okay, but in each row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beads. That's always going to stay the same. Okay, and if you counted the ups and the lower and the up bead and the down beads, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But that's actually 2 rows. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to do with this particular little pattern was make it a little easier to make a tube bead. And after I got my rows, and now I've got a tangle of threads, after I got my rows done, I wanted to be able to make a nice looking tube that I didn't have to worry about that count. I could do it on either amount of beads, whatever size I wanted, however big I wanted this little tube to be. So what I did was bend it the other way. Most of the time when we close peyote stitch, we use the sawtooth edges to join with. So I could actually join this group to this beadwork by having it nestled right inside those little ups and downs, and they would actually join together seamlessly. Okay?
It's like a little zipper.
Like a zipper. But if we turn it 90 degrees and bend it around, we actually get a really nice, sturdy, stiff tube that it looks great, and it has these sawtooth edges on the edges. So I kind of liked how that looked, and it gave it a little bit more of a design element along those edges. You could actually come back through here if you wanted to and put another gemstone bead in that. You know, it would look fun with a little rondelle of a color, or a 3mm rondelle or a 4mm rondelle would fit in there. You could do maybe a 4mm check fire polish even in there. Would look great. So there's some other little options that you could play around with. So first I closed this bead before I made my bracelet. You could leave this open if you wanted and close it around the bracelet, but I don't think it's any easier. I think this is a much faster way to make my tube and then slide it on my bracelet.
And so for this bracelet, this slider, we've done 22 rows.
Yeah.
But you could make this, however many rows you make this,
It's up to you.
Equals the length of the tube. Right? So the width is established by the 12 beads that we used in the row.
That's going to give us the diameter of
the diameter
of the internal of that tube. Big enough to put on a bunch of different beads, or a bunch of different threads. So pulling this around into a circle, I have my needle and thread, and I'm going to take my thread, this is my stitching thread, the thread that I was still adding beads with, and I'm going to go down into a bead, and I like the one that's a little bit diagonal. This will make it seam up where you can't really see it. And I'm going to come up again, and let my thread snuggle in there, and then go across the opening. And I'm going to make a little bit of a X here, right across. And now I'm going to force this into a round and pull it up snug. So now I'll be able to see that I'm going to go across the opening, and I'm just going under a bead and up the next one and across, and I'm going to work my way all the way down to the end. Okay? So this is sort of like stitching up a seam in fabric. If you had a little bit of a mending job to do, you'd be kind of going back and forth across that opening of that seam. And you know, if your thread gets a little flippy floppy and feels a little bit like it's a little weak to you, stop, put a little wax on. It's quite fine. You can add wax at any time. And beeswax is nice, you know, it's archival. We don't have to worry about it messing with any of the chemistry in any of these beads. It's a good thing. We know all about beeswax. Been around for a long time. So just working my way along this little seam. This is the other reason I showed a shorter bead. It's not going to take me all day to get there. You know, I think I spent about an hour or so making these little beads for these bracelets, and maybe another hour kind of assembling them.
Yeah, it's a pretty
maybe
quick
even
project.
maybe even a little bit less. So it's a pretty fast little mover here. Moves right along. And if you find that you want to make multiples, I would actually do the assembly line. I'd make all my beads first, and then get my bracelets made and my thread cut, and then I'll glue it all up at the same time, and they'd be all done. Because what's coming up? What holiday's coming up? Father's Day. And I think it's a really good time to also give gifts to the other guys in your life. Brothers. My brother would certainly wear this. He wears some of my jewelry as well. And uncles, grandpas, sort of fathers in standing, if not in name. Guys that help out.
Fathers-in-law.
Fathers-in-law, for sure.
That's right.
You know, sometimes you've got those great uncles and that do just act like a dad, but they're not your dad. So I finished joining my tube, and I'm working my thread away a little bit. One of the things I like to do with peyote stitch is overlap my thread at least twice. So that means I'm going to turn around and cross my path once. So this is the one cross that I've made. I've looped over my path. And I'm going to go up here a couple of stitches.
Yeah, and just so it's nice and firm and you feel like your threads are...
I kind of do a little bit of a figure eight here. They are passing by one another a couple of times. When you go to cut the fire line, just cut with a little bit of tension, and that tends to make that little end disappear, and you don't have to glue it or anything. And I try never to end my thread on the edge. That's another trick.
Right, that's another one.
If you end your thread on the edge, you will forever have a little fiddly
Bit of
burr of thread sticking out. Do you have both the thread snips? Oh, no, you don't.
No. Oh, okay.
Good job. Good job.
Sorry, I like to steal those thread snips.
I'm going to cut it with a little bit of tension. And then I'm going to put my needle back on
the tail.
Back on the tail.
And this one's right. We can talk about counting again with
Sure.
that one because that's ready.
Okay. Gwen, were you making while we were talking? She might have been.
22. I think
22?
That's 22.
All right. Perfect.
So we'll count it
Yeah.
when you're... So Emily's going to talk about this counting one more time because I know that you guys have had a little bit of confusion with that. So if we lay this down and we start from, this is the row that I've started from, right? Let me get a pointer too so we can discuss this. Here we go. So this was my first row, right? First two rows. So Emily, the 12 beads that I put on in a row, let's just pretend that's 12.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Right, so that's 12 rows there.
12
now,
beads.
12 beads. 12 beads in that row, or those first two rows. So 6 beads a row. Now, I went and I peyoted or added 22 rows, I think. Is that 22 rows?
Hold on, I lost count. 22 rows.
22.
11 and 11.
Okay. So Emily got that number by, see, here's my we actually have this. This is where I ended. Here's my needle right here. Right? So there's my needle. So this is where I just ended. So to figure out how many rows are here, we counted. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 beads on this side. And what do you have there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
11. So 11 and 11?
22.
22. So that means I have 22 rows of 6 beads running across. Okay? So that's how we measure. Okay? Then, if we were looking at this on the diagonal, because someone else was asking about the diagonal, if we lay that, I'll let you lay it.
Okay.
And so see the line that Emily's counting.
And we're going to have to go back. We're going to have to do it twice because we come off the edge. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
So 11.
Right.
Can you see that?
And then we run off the edge, which means that we pivot, and on that same bead we count again, also
So we
on the
don't go
diagonal.
on the same diagonal, but we go so it's like we're counting in a V.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
So that second V, let's count again. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yep. It would have been
there.
from this one.
From that one,
Yeah,
right.
1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,
10, 11, right. Because you've already counted that one.
Right.
So if it's here, that's our diagonal. We count, and then we pivot it. We've already counted that bead there, and we just continue to count. So essentially, you can do it on the diagonal to count, because this is a narrow strip, or you can count both of your non-stitching sides to get the number. The cool thing about this is it doesn't really matter.
There's really no wrong.
There's no wrong.
And, if we were going to seam this peyote together, there would be a wrong and a right. Right? So what we have right now is this even count, and these two edges would sawtooth together, right? And I don't even know if we could.
Does it roll? It doesn't want to roll.
Yeah, it won't. So we go this way instead, and we end up with the sawtooth edge, right? So these, we could stitch these together.
Right, like
literally.
that. Literally
they
like
would
that.
join up perfectly.
And so with this, so now if I'm starting to
join it,
mine's a little stiff because my tension is stiff, right?
You're
a little
fine.
bit. So I'm going to come in, and my first one, I'm just coming out of that tube. I can see that my thread's coming out, and I just go into the one that's opposite.
Yep.
Right, so it would be that one. Right. So you can see, and then we'll just go.
It's going to pull it over.
Back and forth, back and forth.
Just like you're seaming up a seam if you were sewing with thread and needle. Yep.
So if that makes sense. So yeah, so this doesn't zip. It's the two rows that are butting up against each other.
And it actually disappears as well. So you really can't spot it terribly well where that zip happened without the zip. It didn't have a zip to begin with. Right? So I've got my needle on my tail of thread, and now I'm going to go ahead in and, it's interesting working with these hematite cubes. They are not very slippery. They're actually very toothy. They grab a hold of your needle and thread, and they're not one where I can put my needle through a couple of beads at the same time. I'm used to being able to kind of scoot over a few rows at a time, and boy, they're sure different.
One of the things that I also do here is I've gone back and forth to kind of stitch it up a little bit. Then I can also come in with my awl and try and start to pull these closed.
You also might have benefited from a little extra wax there, my friend.
Yeah, probably.
Time
to wax.
Yeah, look, I can't even get through two beads at the same time.
But I intentionally left it open a little bit so I could see where I was going.
Sure.
And then I'll tighten and tighten as I come along.
It's so fun working with you this way, Kate. I gotta say, I know this is a job.
It's not just a job.
But it's an adventure. It's really fun working like this together. And I wish we could do it every day.
Every day.
We should do it every day.
I know.
Maybe sometime we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Never know.
Every day. You never know. So now,
so
we're going to make
here's
the
my
bracelet,
bead.
right?
Yeah, we're ready to kind of do the rest of this. And I've got some patented Emily tricks, of course, to show you and to come up with some measurements for you. Our measuring tape went astray. I never did find it any place. I know.
Any place.
I've
That's
looked
so
and
bizarre.
looked and looked.
It might be on my desk.
I
Who
looked
knows?
on your desk. I
And the
took
mess
the
that's on my
liberty.
desk.
Kara is going to loan me hers.
Karen has hers.
Karen
Thank
has
you,
hers,
Karen.
and it actually has her name on it, right?
Right there.
Yeah.
Karen's
well,
all...
what is it about this measuring
Right,
tape?
we
They keep
can't-
and all the rulers
I
and
know.
everything just keeps disappearing.
Into the ether.
It's killing
But
me.
Karen hides hers, so...
Does she?
always
Do you
has it.
hide it in your pen cup or something?
I told you.
That's right.
Where do
She
you
can't
hide it
tell
so
us.
that I can borrow it
That's right.
occasionally? So, measurement and for bracelets is always kind of a tricky subject. And what I would like to do for most guys is say that they're probably in the 8 to 9 inch bracelet range.
Yeah.
And so the middle of that, and I have to say I asked Ivan some personal questions today. I said, he tried the bracelets on again, and I said, so Ivan, do you wear like a size large shirt? And so he's a little on the shorter side, but he wears a size large shirt, and he said some interesting things, that he did like a looser fit. And so the bracelets that we're working on today are door to door in the finished form, about 8.5 inches long, maybe 8.5 and a little scotch, but in that neck of the woods. So 8.5 is kind of that middle ground for guys' bracelets.
Yeah, that's about what I make Chris's too.
Yep. Actually, my husband would probably be just a little on the smaller side these days. So to do this, I want to have multiple strands of waxed linen. And wax linen is doesn't slide around very much.
No,
and so
because it's got that wax.
it's got that wax on there. So there's got to be a way to make this a little easier to work with. And one thing I really like are notebooks. Who's with me? Who likes a notebook?
Yes.
Everybody? We all like a notebook.
We all like a notepad.
Right? So I have this smaller legal size notepad, and it's actually just about 8 inches long itself. So with the addition of my clasp, and knowing that I'm going to lose a little bit where it's going to get glued into the clasps, this kind of made just about the right size thing to wrap thread around. And you could use a regular one.
Of cardboard.
Cut a piece of cardboard, you know, whatever you've got. If you have a regular notebook, a regular pad like this that's bigger, use the short way rather than the long way, right? So I'm going to pull some thread off on our waxed cotton, and these come in these great little nests of waxed linen. They're just so easy to work with because you can take the linen out of the center, right?
And one of the things, you're going to show how you wrapped it. We actually, when we did this wrapping the first time, we wrapped double of what we needed because you wrap
I
strands.
miscounted.
Yep, it's easy to do. I do the same thing.
Easy to do. So I'm going to hold this end right on top with my thumb, and I'm going to wrap around. Now, this is actually 2 wraps, but I was counting 1, and so I did a lot of wrapping. I thought, wow, that's a lot of wrapping.
Wow, it's a lot of wrapping.
But really, it's actually
2 strands. Because there's a strand on the front and a strand on the back. Yeah.
Kate helped me out.
I was all, girl, what you doing? What you doing over there?
So that's 8.
Oh, I love this bead.
9.
Winding around. So how many wraps did you do?
7.
Sorry, 7.
For 14 strands.
7 for 14
We've had
strands.
this conversation a couple of times.
That's
I've got 1 under my thumb. Oh, maybe I have too many.
Yeah, I was like, Emily, you're doing it
Stop
again.
doing it again. So, yeah, there's 7 strands.
There it is. Boom. Because I was all just, you're wrapping
winding,
too much.
and I'm winding,
I know,
and I'm
but
winding.
it's easy to do. I do the same
Easy to
thing.
do.
Because it's fun.
Yeah.
So 7 strands on the front, 7 strands on the back equals 14 strands.
All day long.
All total.
And
That's
I'm just
what I
going
remember.
to flex my little piece to get that out of there. All right.
And you can see. So let's count. And we've got here 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14.
What did I do wrong?
No.
I must have doubled it.
18,
See?
20,
I was doing the
22,
right
24. Sorry. Yep. But I wanted to make sure that was right.
All right. We'll do some more. Look, we'll do a little
some
more. You know, you could use the thinner leather for this.
Yeah.
You could also, I think, use
mix
the.
it,
You could.
too.
Get out of my head,
Kate Richburg. I
Kate
know.
Richburg.
I know. Isn't it funny how the simple act of just winding some cord, when you have to count, again, this doesn't have to be exact either, right?
Yeah, they all.
That's why we're a little loosey-goosey with this, is because it doesn't have to be exactly the same.
2, 4. Right. Okay.
Shoo. So that one has 24 strands total.
Right.
Yeah, so surfer cord, any of it. Anything
Absolutely.
you like. You bet.
So once I've got these strands all together.
And it's actually maybe easier to wrap them in multiple passes anyway.
Might have been.
Because it's a little bit easier to get it off the card, I think.
You know, I just bend the card.
Yeah.
That usually works.
No, I do too.
Okay.
It's the same thing when I wrap my tassels, when you're wrapping
when you're
tassels.
when you're making cord bundles. Yeah. So I just kind of glued the ends together. Technical term, with a little that wax. Slid my bead on. And you know, it's not a bad idea to kind of do a little test here. See how it looks. Make sure you like it. Maybe do you need to add some cords? Do you need to take some away?
And one of the things that Janice just mentioned, and I think it's a good kind of way to kind of pull this around, is she takes the clasps and see how many fibers she can fit in it. And she takes her lead from that, which is also good. You also want to take into consideration, you guys, what is going to
Look
fit.
at your bead you made.
I know, I made that bead. What's going to fit inside that hole as well. I really like it.
It's very. I really had been dying to payday stitch with these for some time, and
Yeah.
I was pretty excited to do that.
I think they're good times
Yeah.
had by all.
Yeah.
So door to door, this was, how long was this length?
Just about 8 right
Yeah,
now.
just about 8.
But I'm also going to do this.
Yeah, we're going to trim
I'm going to trim so that all my cords are even,
nice and neat.
right? So when I glue them, they all are in there, glued in. And it's okay if there's a one there or two there that's still a loop, but I want to make sure all my threads are haircut together.
And are you going to glue that end before you cut, or you'll cut both? No, obviously you're cutting both of those.
I'm
ends
just
right
going
now.
to go for broke here,
Okay,
right?
great.
And many times I would have thought that was horribly wasteful, but I wasted, I think conservatively, I maybe wasted 1.5 inches of thread
Yeah,
here
maybe.
doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe. Wasn't very much lost, right? Somebody mentioned early on that you could have braided, we could have braided those, you know?
That'd be cool, and you need a little more length.
You'd need a little more length,
if
yep,
you're
if you're going
braiding.
to braid.
So now we're going to glue.
Yeah.
Do you need a baggie?
Look,
Look at you, right there.
how prepared am I?
And which glue are we going to use?
I'm going to use Zap.
Okay.
And I got to tell you, I am not a glue fan in general.
Pull up just a little.
Just was checking all my threads here. I find that glue, I just don't trust it. But I love the Zap glue.
Yep, I do too.
Can I also have a
Toothpick?
toothpick?
You bet.
Because they're right there.
There we go.
Thanks. And, you know, these are nice because you can actually test fit them right into your clasp
Yep, there you go.
and see how you like it. See, we could have squeezed a few more of those in there
Yeah,
if you wanted.
because the thread does collapse down, so it's okay. I'm going to give you that.
Thank you. And I thought the easiest thing to do was actually just go ahead and squeeze some glue into the clasp.
And we want to make sure when Emily's squeezing that glue into the clasp that the glue attaches to all 4 sides of the clasp, top, bottom, and the sides, so that the
I feel like there's not very much glue coming out of here.
is
Hold
there?
on a
I
second.
tested it for you.
So
Maybe
did
I didn't.
Oh,
there we
maybe
go.
I just didn't squeeze hard enough.
There you go. But you want to really make sure that the glue is contacting all.
Yeah. So I just went in
sides
and
of
used the
clasp.
toothpick to kind of make sure that it was all over the place in there. And you have a little bit of time here. Not a ton, but a little bit of time. And I'm going to go ahead and put my
Because
cords
the
in.
Zap does set up pretty quick.
Ooh, I lost one. Get him in there.
And you're doing this kind of flat. You're trying not to bend or twist.
And, you know, when I did this for the samples, I really did it on the assembly line. So I did one side of each clasp and just went to the next one and let it hang out there and let it dry. Yeah, Janice is correct. Always glue with the clasps attached to itself. That way, if
You don't glue
you
one
don't-
in upside down.
Oh, it's so frustrating. I know that would be something I would do too.
Right.
And you know, it might be kind of fun to try on these is tying a knot.
Some knotting a la our Odyssey project.
Yeah, yeah, it might
And
be
what
kind of fun.
Cindy was saying when she was playing around with her version of this design, she added some 5mm, some leather, some heishi, and some chips in there, so that that looks, that would be a cool way to get a little more texture in there too. This really is a great jumping off point for this project, for sure.
Janice suggested little shadows.
You could.
Yeah.
You could string, we could also string some more of the hematite. I used almost all of a strand of hematite. Show us what's left over with your little strand.
not much.
Not much. So we had just maybe 3 inches or so and some change left over of that. So 1 strand of the hematite cubes, one nest of wax linen.
Looks good.
And if I'm rushing myself just a little bit, that's all right.
May I have your notepad?
Yep,
there real quick?
absolutely.
Click on it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Just want to make sure all my strands are through there, even and tidy.
5. Cindy was saying that the strands of wax linen glued into the clasp makes her nervous. Yeah, it is. I mean, we're putting a liberal amount of glue, and you could add a little more glue to the strands as well, just to really make sure that the glue is soaking in there. 6,
And
8.
I actually ended up adding enough on this one. This is a little bit more like I did the last time. I added enough glue that it was gap filling as well. So you can see in that one, I think that there's liberal amounts of glue in there. And then I brought my strands in, and as I put my strands in, the glue kind of came out just a little bit. And that I just wiped up with my toothpick. And that little guy's sticking out there. Let me tuck him in there. So any little extras just kind of came off the edge, and it's tidied up there. Oops, one loose guy.
And you do want to make sure that the end of your wax linen is pretty straight across, so it does contact the inside of your clasp pretty well.
And I got to tell you, I'm modestly pleased with these guys.
Yeah, I like them a lot.
Yeah, I do too. And I like the bangle effect of these. That they're not a tight bracelet. They're fitting a little bit looser. I like the organicness of the wax linen. I like that it's a fairly quick project. This is not a project that's going to take you
Hours
3
and
weeks
hours.
to do. And for Pete's sake, we don't have that much more time before Father's Day to get these done.
No, they're good. They're real good. And I'm almost done with my gluing. One of the things that I've done over here while we're waiting for Emily's to dry, I'll bring this into frame so you guys can see it. I'm kind of the old school, or not the old school, but of the school of I like to kind of measure as I go. So I still have my threads on the other side not even cut.
Right. Well, and if you were going to make this a little smaller or fit it to someone else's wrist.
Yeah, so if I'm fitting this to my wrist here, I'm just going to shove that in there, really make sure that's in there. But then I'll go in, I'm going to let this sit for a minute, but I'll go in and I won't even cut these guys off. I'll go ahead and slide my thread, my slider bead on there. Let's see how this is. Yeah, it's
Setting up.
setting up. Zap, the cool thing about Zap is
So fast.
it does come out fast. So I'm going to let that sit, and then I'll slide this on. Then I'll wrap it around my wrist and figure out my length, and then I'll cut and glue.
Yeah.
So you could do it that way as well.
even this, again, the amount of waste that you might be doing, is infinitesimal. Maybe it's a foot or 10 inches of extra thread. That's pretty modest amount of leftover to deal with.
And what Janice is also saying, she could make it a double wrap for herself. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've got those cord ends, those glue end cord ends that might be a little, you could use like a smaller clasp for it, but you could use this on one, put a cord end on the other end.
You could braid part of it.
Right, and then add leather on the other side.
What's the bead that we use on the Tahoe?
The transition?
The transition. You could do a transition on these and put it in place.
Yeah,
smush it, crimp it,
yeah.
and put it in place. And it would be very pretty.
Yeah, it's a good jumping off point.
Yeah. And this maybe a double wrap would be the place to have a bunch of multicolored strands of that going through there. That would be pretty with the walnut and the ivory.
So there it is. It's on there, and I'm going to cut the other end.
Yeah.
Well,
cool, Kate.
I guess we've done it. We've done it this time.
Once again.
I'm going to pass this back over to Janice, and let's wrap this sucker up.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. No, some really great tips. I'm really excited to see what you guys make with this. Let me take this arm down. So
taking it and
this.
running with it, right?
I like it.
I do too. I really liked seeing people's textured fringes that came along.
Oh my gosh.
There were
People
some
have been
beautiful ones.
textured fringing.
Like nobody's business.
Yeah, like
and
crazy.
I had several questions about what was the length of the boas. It's like,
I can't
and I
wait.
meant to bring my recipe cards with me. I forgot.
Oh.
Next week.
Next
Next week, because I'll be here on my own and I'll have lots of time to talk.
Yeah. Lots of time.
And I'll bring my I'll bring my orange boa that's in progress, so you guys can see it. Because it's orange and gold.
Somebody also said, and so Marnie said here, you could put leather through the loops and treat it like across cultures. So really good call, Manny. I don't think I'm going to cut this.
You might
loop.
change up your mind.
I might change up a little bit. So we'll see how this evolves. You never ever know. But it's on there. It was a really fun project.
You could actually
so much.
we could do we could split these into 2 groups.
Still get some requests to see on Ivan.
Oh, hey Ives, you want to bring your wrist over here, would ya?
Would you?
Come right in between
Please.
us. Ivan's like, if I must. Let's try some of these on Ivan. Here's Ivan, fresh from shipping. There we go. Look at you. Looks perfect, Ives.
Yeah.
Oh, Vanna.
Yeah.
There you are. Thank you. Let's put
Ivan.
another. Let's put one more on
Yeah, go
because
for it.
if one is good, two is
Two's
better.
better.
Let's stack it.
Do you have any favorites in the colors, Ivan? That we did.
Probably the black and silver.
Black and silver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a black and silver. kind of
Silver
guy.
kind of guy.
It's kind of
Looks
what you're
great.
wearing today.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So
yeah.
it fits in.
Looks
Yeah,
good.
I really like these two. They're really
Yeah.
nice.
You can see they give a little. Ivan has a little bit of room underneath there, but they're loose enough.
And they're comfortable.
Yeah, they're comfortable.
It might look nice next to a watch too.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a watch wearer and you
Right.
want to put it together, you know.
It's a good one.
I like it.
Might be
Right.
one way to pick out colors that somebody might already like is match something they've got already.
Yeah.
You know?
Some colors are usually more. Yeah.
Oh well, thanks, Ives.
Thank you, Ivan.
We appreciate everyone's super stoked. They're all, yes, Ivan, Ivan, yes, happy birthday to Ivan.
Thank you.
All of
so
it.
much.
Yes, thank you. He's the best. Thanks,
What a
Ives.
trooper.
That's
Taking
true.
one for the team.
That's right. You know what? Everyone around here takes one for the team all the time. It is so true. Right now was Ivan's turn.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
That's true.
It's so true. But we take one for the
We
team
all
all the time.
are. It's a good team here.
That's so true.
Yeah, I think
true.
we might need jerseys at some point.
Right, Team Beat Shop. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Well, I'm going to close this up and I'm going to have you set that to give to Karen.
I'll hold it in my hand
Yes,
so that I
don't lose
remember
it.
to do it.
That's right.
Because
Well, let's wrap things up.
I know.
We've got a fun
Oh, yes.
giveaway today. We've got a fun, we've got some fun stuff to see here. Yeah, people have said, well, we should give him that bracelet. Well, it's true. We have so much jewelry here that we like to wear.
really,
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. And you know what? Sometimes we have bead days and stuff. So you never know. You never, ever know what our Ivan will get. And I'm just going to take a moment out and see that my old friend Michael jumped on to say hello. So hello, my old friend Michael, who I went to school in London with
No
so
kidding.
many
No
years
kidding.
ago. It's 30 years. Brandon went on the program the semester before I did, and she just looked over at me and said, that was 30 years ago. We were babies. We were 2 years old when we did it. So hello to my dear London friend.
Janice wants one more go
yes,
on that.
the wrist candy. So this is the piece that Janice and I, there's a new, there are 2 colorways that we're doing at Bead and Button of this color study wrap. This one is also going to be released the weekend, not this weekend, but next weekend. It's going to be up as a project on the website. So there's a new, so this one will be a new color study
Love
that's
that
up on the
button.
web. So Janice did a really great job when we did the color study. It was Green Meadow. The name escapes me, the green one that we did for color study. But this one, the Meadow Lark, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over it. Janice, you can type it on here and I'll see it. Because we were just making the kits for it.
Meadowland.
Meadowland, thank you. This will be up as a new project next week and in celebration of our color study. So that's the story there. So that's it.
Yummy, yummy.
And Garden Path was the green one, and you can find the green one. Janice and I did that whole color study on a Facebook Live a while back. So Emily's also wearing her
No, I always have some bead crochet.
piece on. And then the earrings that I'm wearing are from
Oh, these are the Free Tip Friday
the
ones?
Free Tip Friday
Oh, they're
earrings
darlings.
from last week.
Yeah.
And you guys have really been doing a great job with these as well. So
And you have
it
one
was
of your
time.
vintage pins on, too.
Oh, I do, from my vintage pin stash. It's true.
That's a
it's
good
true.
one.
It makes us, it's nice having a job where where our jewelry is appreciated. Right?
Our accessories are required.
It is so true. And this is 2, 4, 6. This is a 7 wrap. This guy is a 7 wrapper here. But again, you can make these as many wraps as you like. Janice likes to make these color studies as many wraps as she has the stamina for. I think this is a piece that can go on and on and on. Kind of like we can at the end
I can
of
go on and
Facebook
on and on
Live.
and on and on and on and on.
So let's let everybody know that today, our store-wide, we've got 20% off because we thought you'd want to stash some stuff for
Get
Father's
ready.
Day. So if you add Guys 20 into your order notes, or into, not your order notes, into your coupon code box, discount code box, Guys 20, we knock 20% off store-wide today. And today is the 30th of May, 2018. So that discount is good until tonight at midnight Pacific
Almost
time.
halfway through.
Okay? Right? I know, it's almost June. It's almost June 1st. Then, if you order today up until, we're live right now, if you're watching us live, it's about noon, 5 after, here on the West Coast. So if you put in your shipping notes, Daddy-O, we have a little raffle that we're doing.
We have
Today we've
two.
got 2 raffles. One, and
Raffle
there are 2
prizes.
raffle prizes. We're going to pick from all of the orders between now till 1 o'clock. And we've got 2 colorways that aren't in the project. We pulled the denim.
Oh, that's really pretty.
It's a nice, this wax linen in
It's kind
denim.
of it's almost a grayish denim, and I
It's
really like it.
so beautiful.
Yeah. That's the one you used on your Odyssey at one
That
point.
Odyssey,
You
right?
and your mom made at Yosemite.
That's right. And this, we have the shiny copper
Those are yummy too.
hematite beads, which are beautiful.
Yeah.
So this is one
A lot of
colorway.
drama in that one.
Yeah, with all the accoutrement, the fire line and the glue and
And the
stuff.
needles, everything
the
you
needles.
need.
And then the second one we'll pull is, we have the sage, or the olive, I think is what it is. Olive. This is coming undone. I'm trying to wind it, but I'm unwinding it. Such a pretty wax linen color for this. And I chose the matte gold because I really loved the way that looked. And then the clasp is the antique brass. So there's
pretty
some
altogether.
pretty colors. So there's 2, and again, we'll pull these a little later this afternoon. Cara lets Drea know who has won these raffles, and then we post it up on our Facebook page, in the group and on our Facebook Live page, so you guys know. And then, of course, we always notify you when your order goes out, if you're the winner. So that's the story. Daddy-O and the shipping notes to enter the raffle, that goes until 1 o'clock today. And then this 20% off, guys 20.
Guys, hey guys.
Hey
Oh,
guys.
guys.
Hey guys, it's a
Guys.
store-wide sale.
Guys.
Hey guys.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Guys.
Hey guys. We're just
Guys.
Karen's coming up the stairs going, what are you guys saying?
I thought I made a mistake or
No,
something.
you didn't. You did it.
Hey
You're
guys.
perfect.
Hey guys. Oh my.
That's the story there.
Sneeze.
Oh, okay. Well, on that note, thank
Sorry.
you so much, you guys, for joining us today for Facebook Live. It was a fun project. Really nice
It
one.
was, huh?
Really good.
I was so pleased that this was such a easy, quick, with a few twists.
Yeah, a fun
Fun one. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And a really great way to make this beaded bead.
Yep.
Next week, you're going to be doing, Janice made some really great other kind of guy-centered single wrap bracelets
Yep.
and stuff. So you're going to talk a little bit more about jewelry for men.
Yep.
And show how those wrap bracelets are made. It's going to be really fun. So there's another
3 new designs.
yeah, 3
Yep.
new designs that are coming. And then I'll be popping in with my grumpy, tired self on my way
Oh,
to
come
Bead and
on.
Button.
You,
It'll be fun.
You're going to have the best
It
fun.
is. It's gonna have the
You're
best
gonna go
fun.
and have...
Yeah.
What is it? You gave me some breakfast when... I think maybe the last time we went to Bead and Button. We go together. We had some Japanese breakfast thing. that was-
Oh yeah, at the
What's
San
that called?
Francisco airport, it's the Japanese oatmeal
with the
with the chicken and
stock.
stuff in it.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I always. That's my power
It's
breakfast
so good.
at before I do a show. I like tradition, so I like to do the same things when I go to the airport.
You and
So
me and
that's
Mary.
one of 'em.
Was it last year?
I don't know. Time has no meaning
I think it was.
anymore. Could be. You never know.
Oh my gosh, things go by so quickly.
Well, I will see you next week from Bead and Button, but I'll see you before that on Friday for Free Tip Friday, and we have a brand new monthly mix that's debuting, and I'm going to be working with the monthly mix and kind of a riff on these guys. It's going to be kind of fun. And what was that, Brandon? Oh, beads. Oh, the beads are even in for the mix. That's even better. That's awesome. So it's going to be awesome. You're going to love, 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 love. I hope you love the mix because it's going to be great. All right, my darlings. I guess that's it. Happy birthday again tomorrow, Gita.
Yeah.
Happy birthday on Monday to Ivan. And Janice, I can't wait to see you next week. And I guess that's our story.
I'm sorry I don't get to see you, Janice.
I know.
We'll wave at each other over the
We
internet.
will, over the internet. All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you Friday.
Bye, guys.
We'll
Thanks
see
so
you
much
next
for
week.
coming by.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.